Hello and welcome to what's hopefully the first audible Facecheck.co.uk game. If you're wondering what was wrong with the first few videos, I would claim not to know. There is a small possibility that my microphone is unidirectional and I actually had it rigged up backwards, but were that the case, I'm sure I'd claim that both sides are actually identical and there's no way that I could have known. In this video, I'm playing an incredibly slow big rig Hayley deck against Netrunner RP. My deck is lovingly titled First of 4 and relies on scoring 7 points in one turn where possible. So here I am, still playing on Genteki.net. You'll notice hopefully the video quality is slightly better. I'm recording in 1080p using XSplit. Currently just using the free version, which is why there's a watermark on this one. But if the quality is improved, I'll go to the paid for version and we'll record future videos in 1080p. Now my laptop is not a huge fan of both recording and displaying at that resolution. So my deck is a very slow deck, as I mentioned in the intro. The aim is to get set up with 3 Underworld Contacts, 3 data foldings, 3 all-nighters, have a massive hand size with beach parties, Adjusted Chronotype and gene conditioning Shoppe. In terms of hardware, you'll probably have out, or I'll aim to have out, the Toolbox, 9 cost console, one of the bigger ones out there, 2 Dyson Mem Chips, possibly 2 clone chips in case things go wrong. My breaker suite will consist of Atman at 4, Corroder, Gordian Blade Mimic, and 1 David. And on the turn where it matters, after the corpse has installed advanced, the aim is to run HQ, R&D, archives, pop all 3 all-nighters, quest completed to get the hopefully double advanced agenda. Hopefully I've scored a point or 2 on one of those runs, and then triple play Notoriety for another 3 points. It has happened a number of times. I'm not claiming this is a good deck by any stretch, falls apart terribly to any sort of fast advance. However, against RP I have had a slightly better record. The good thing about quest completed is that it manages to bypass things like Batty and Ash and Caprice in the remotes, and really takes away one of the sort of key defenses for RP. Surprised not seeing a little more of it. However, RP centrals can often end up being equally as well defended. Certainly getting into all 3 in one turn can be even more expensive. So to start with, I'm simply getting set up, daily casts and all-nighter installed turn 1, into data folding and adjusted chronotype turn 2. Having the choice between adjusted chronotype and what's it called? Underworld Contacts. Wow, mind blank, I'm looking right at it. To install, I went with Chronotype, neither of which are doing anything for me at the moment. However, one often overlooked benefit of Chronotype is that if you run into Enigma or a Troll, you lose a click, but then a Chronotype will give you that back, assuming you've not already lost one that turn. Here I'm just getting all the resources set up. The aim with Hayley being able to install twice on a single click is to draw into 2 of the same type, then play them both and click for a credit. Hopefully you'll have set up some of your money cards. I've got data folding and daily casts there, just to keep money coming in. Eventually that will run out. Once you're set up or almost set up, Levy to get back into the gambles, installing daily casts again if you need them. But by the end, if everything's gone well, you have more money than you really need. What will be happening is you'll be gaining 6 credits per turn for the Underworld Contacts and data folding. Then there'll be 2 credits, recurring credits on Toolbox for you to use during your runs. So you're effectively getting 8 credits per turn, assuming you're making a run. And not much is going to be able to keep you out. Here the corp's double advanced card that's been sitting there for a while. I'm still reluctant to try and get it. I possibly could. Certainly I'm setting up so that I'm in a position to get whatever goes in there next, but I'm willing to let this one go. I assume it's a future perfect. It could be the Nisei, which will be problematic for me, but I've chosen just to continue to improve my board state. I had obviously a bit of a think there. I was thinking about running, I was thinking about drawing, I was thinking about taking credits. What will end up happening, you'll see there I also have game day. When I do have beach party and chronotype out, using game day, it's a double, costs 1, drop to your maximum hand size, often nets 7 cards, 8 cards, and if you've got 2 beach parties out, then you could be netting up to sort of 10 cards in 2 clicks. I should perhaps look at a different draw engine. It's quite convoluted to get up to that state, and here you'll actually see that I get it going. So now my maximum hand size is 10. Also helps protect a bit from any kind of damage. I've no plascretes, I've no I've worses. So a big hand size is about the only thing that would save me in the event of a scorch. It does mean that on the occasions that you run into Kamainu or no, primarily Kamainu, having to pay 15 credits to get through a piece of ice is not very appealing, even with a mimic out. So now my next turn I plan on drawing up. Beach party's down, I'll use game day. That would let me draw 7 cards for 2 clicks and a credit. He scored 2 points already with Fetal AI. Already worth noting that he's a slightly different style of RP, not using the usual agenda suite. But I've not yet pegged what he actually is. So here I stick to my game plan. I use game day to draw up. I find a sure gamble to get more money, and I'm still not really set up in terms of getting cash. So install another daily casts and gene conditioning shop. Now gene conditioning shop lets Adjusted Chronotype fire a second time for when I have 2 beach parties. Otherwise I'd be losing a click per turn and wouldn't be able to get very much done. Now the card that he's installed in server 0, I'm inclined to believe that it is an agenda. Alternatively, it could just be one of the support cards, maybe a Caprice, maybe a Bate, maybe an Ash. But I'm not inclined to run it until it starts to become advanced. I witnessed him do the same thing with his Fetal. He left it there for a couple of turns, didn't advance it until he was ready, at which point hopefully I'll be further set up. I can clone chip out an SMC and fetch whatever breaker I need if it was a Gordian or similar, and that would also let me play a program from hand, a David for anything bigger, or a Parasite for anything smaller. As it is, I'm quite happy with the situation. I've managed to get a lot of my resources out. What I'm missing is anything to trigger Underworld Contacts. I need either both Dyson Mem Chips or the Toolbox out to start getting money on that. And here's installed a second card in server 0. So I'm now thinking that is the agenda, and I wouldn't mind trying to get it. So before I can run on the remote, I need to run on a central. Although again, because he's not advanced it, I don't feel the strict urge to go and get it this turn. If he is running 3-2s, perhaps Philotic Entanglement, perhaps Brain Trust, then that will become problematic for me. But now is the time when I feel that that's definitely agenda and it's worth having a go at it. Now I have quest completed in hand. My intention here is to bypass whatever the upgrade is, run HQ R&D archives, and then use quest completed to get those hopefully 3 points in that remote. I would then also possibly have popped All Nighter to use Notoriety to gain 3 or 4 points in a single turn. So far so good. He just lets me into HQ, were he to res a card there, then it would leave him broke for running the other remotes and the other servers on the remote. Now I've noticed Merlin, I've made the run without thinking about what that could entail. As it turns out, he has res Merlin, and now I'm likely to get hit. My intention is to clone chip out clone chip out SMC, then SMC into Gordian. But what's happening here is that in server 1 there is a blacklist which the corp wants to res. Now in real life, no problem, you can res both simultaneously. There wouldn't be any real delay or issues. Here, however, by choosing to res the ice first, I've already started to respond by bringing out the SMC with the clone chip, and was about to finish off and get the Gordian. I thought he was initially asking to wait to reveal more cards, at which point I was going to say I hadn't yet encountered, but with the rest of the blacklist, this is going to take a little bit of doing in order to get back to the correct board state. Again, my opponent's entirely right. It was still his priority window, but due to the nature of the game online, it's always best to have resed the blacklist before the ice. I still can't jack out before encountering the ice. It's the first piece of ice on that run. And had I seen blacklist, then obviously I wouldn't have popped the clone chip and started to install. So here I'm just going to spend a little bit of time trying to remedy the issues. You'll see it's not impossible with the Jinteki.net. A lot of people have I've had complaints about how difficult it is to use and how things aren't really programmed. But that's not strictly the case. There I actually installed the David normally instead of using Hayley's ability, so I need to click up. At this point I should have 2 clicks, 16 credits, a clone chip installed, and that will be the board state back to what it should be. So here I'm going to install the David again, but put it back to hand. Then I'm going to install the clone chip, and I'll remember about taking the credit back in just a minute. So a long way for a shortcut, which could have been solved a lot more simply just by resing blacklist first. So again, not my opponent's fault at all, but he's certainly right within his timing windows. But within the flow of the game, it just makes more sense resing blacklist first. So I'm basically going to eat all the subroutines of Merlin. So it's going to be 4 net damage and not be able to run again. 4 net damage I'm not too worried about. Losing my entire hand wouldn't be the end of the world. I do have Levy still, clone chips, and can recur quite readily. I'm only running a single one of each program. So I have a single Mimic, a single Corroder, a single David, a single Atman, a single Parasite, and a single Gordian Blade. I do have 3 self-modifying codes, which will let me go fetch those one-off programs. Additionally, it will let me trigger my ability on my opponent's turn, along with clone chip, by installing a program either from the heap or my stack, and also installing out of hand. On the plus side, the Merlin there doesn't stop me. I do get to see 1 card, which is a Nisei, and in order to prevent any more nastiness, I'm going to probably install Atman at 4. So that's the usual rig. Mimic, Corroder, Gordian, Atman at 4, and David for getting through anything bigger. It's still a very good rig once everything's up and running. Very difficult for the corp to keep you out. Now here he scored another 3 points, taking him up to 5. All he needs is a 2-pointer, and were it a 3-2 that he could score in one turn, then I'll have some problems. So now I'm going to have to go and check that remote every single time. So here I make the run on a central before running on the remote. All I want is to find out what that card is and to get rid of it. If it's a Caprice or a Batty, hopefully take it out before I need to make a real run and get an agenda there. I also want to get rid of the blacklist. I probably should have got rid of the blacklist before making a run on that remote, just in case. But again, more Grail Ice, which he reveals Excalibur, where I cannot make another run, and Merlin to do 2 net damage, so I'll break both of those, plus the one that's on Galahad already, the end of run. And then hopefully continue through. Should he res another Galahad here or something else, I should just about have enough money. If it is Caprice and he wants to play the psi-game, you'll have to pay to res her, and then won't have enough credits to play the psi-game properly. So he chooses not to res anything, save some money, which is probably the right shout. And then with the cash I have left, I'm going to go get Blacklist in case I need to clone chip something out later. Or before he protects it as well. RP tends to run a single copy of Blacklist these days, but he's already proven that he's not running a standard suite. Grail RP is quite strong. Falls apart a little to shaper decks, primarily Kate. Losing Galahads and Lancelots that end up installed can be quite painful to Parasite recursion. And again, Anarchs as well. They've got the same abilities, albeit slightly slower. So here, although I'm looking set up, I don't have a lot of money. He's in a not bad position. He's also broke. So he's installing and moneying up. As I mentioned, I have to check that remote every single turn. Can't let a 3-2 get by me. Although he's now shown me that it is a Sundew. I make the decision that I pretty much have to go for it. I can't let him money up, or else it'll make it very difficult to get into places. Ultimately, regardless of how much money he's got, once I'm fully set up, it doesn't make a difference. It's very unlikely he can keep me out. But until that point, keeping the pressure on and forcing him to res and lose credits just slows the corp down enough to let me get set up. So here I make a run. Should he, again, if it's maybe another Galahad underneath, this one will cost me 3 to get through. The next one will cost me 3 to get through, and then I wouldn't have enough credits for Sundew. I make the decision to go through anyway. I look at what ice he's revealed. He revealed a Lancelot and a Merlin, so I need to break them all unless I want to lose something, be that net damage or a program. And then just wait and see if he reses anything here. I realise I'm a little poorer than I expected. A little more poor. But I get in, I have enough money, trash it, and then just should money up for the last click. Now currently at the start of turn I'm getting 2 money from data folding. Underworld Contacts isn't switched on yet. I'm only up to 1 link. Hayley's a 0 link runner, and Dyson Mem Chip only provides 1 extra link and 1 extra MU. So I either need to find the other Dyson Mem Chip or the Toolbox. Toolbox is an expensive console to install, costs 9, but does pay itself back if you're making a lot of runs. Until that point, however, I will continue setting up. I choose to install same old thing there, just in case I somehow end up with Levy in my heap. Usually not the end of the world if I can't Levy, but against any Jinteki deck, and certainly Grail where Merlin's doing you damage, it's best to have a backup plan. So I've pulled the second Dyson Mem Chip, which I'm going to want to get out pretty much as soon as possible. That would turn on the Underworld Contacts, which will mean I'm getting 5 credits a turn, just for the resources that I have out. So here I'm going to use Hayley's ability to install Underworld Contacts and All-Nighter, which is a 0 cost resource. Then I'll use the last click to install the Dyson Mem Chip. I now have 2 link, which turns on all 3 Underworld Contacts, and I have 3 data folding out. So I'm now getting 6 credits per turn for doing nothing. Very much approaching the end game for me. Once I'm set up, there's not much that can really stop me. Caprice, of course, doesn't really care how much money or what your breakers are. It comes down to the psi-game. And similarly with Batty, he can trash whatever you're needing to get through the ice before you even hit it. So now I'm starting to think about what I can possibly do to win. Previously, being 5 points down, I was not optimistic. Here I'm wondering if I can get a power turn, do the 7 points in 1 turn, and achieve kind of what this deck originally set out to do. Got 2 notorieties in hand, that's 2 points. All I need to do is run into HQ, R&D and Archives. I know I can definitely, or almost certainly, get in at this point. I have to assume that one of those ice on Archives is a crick. So if I can get the David down as well, that would help get past that. My current hand size is 10. I'm going to install away here. So I install David, which triggers Hayley's ability, allowing me to install a second program, so it's a second card of the same type. I install Parasite and Galahad, which will trash it at the start of turn. It's worth noting that Parasite takes me below 2 MU for triggering the data folding. However, at the start of my turn, I can... data folding will trigger, but it won't check for the MU state until I choose that it resolves. So when I choose the order of effects to resolve at my start of turn, I do Parasite first. When Parasite gets a token, that reduces the strength of Galahad to 0, which will trash both Galahad and Parasite. Data folding was active at the start of turn, the trigger's still there. And then with Parasite gone, I will get the 3 money for having 2 spare MU. So now with a Parasite in my heap, I can clone chip it out if I need to. Here I'm debating what to play. I decided I might as well get the Toolbox out as soon as I can and start making a few runs. With 2 free credits per turn for a run and 6 at the start of turn, I can now start getting into places. The only thing I don't have installed that I might want is the Gordian, which is in hand. So in order to bring that out, I would have to clone chip out perhaps a Parasite, then install Gordian using Hayley's ability, and use it that way. So it's not the cheapest way of getting a card out mid-run. You have to install another program. But the point is that I can, and that's the whole basis of Shaper bullshit. Can you do it? Probably. So I want to get rid of that Sundew again. I still don't want him to run away on credits. So I run against HQ. It's now going to cost me just 2 credits to get in. I have my 2 recurring credits from Toolbox, 2 real credits. Then I'll make a run on server 1, see what it is, and hopefully have enough left to trash the Sundew at 2 trash cost. The thing with Grail Ice is that it is quite taxing, even if you can get through it. 3 subroutines on each. Often you'll need to pump for strength as well. At least for Merlin usually, but with Atman at 4, it simply costs 3 credits. Amitsubaku, just a 2 strength barrier, really just a gear check for the runner, but with Corroder out, only cost me 1 credit. So 4 credits total to get into HQ, get 2 back for Toolbox. Again, I'm trying to make the corp spend money so they can't get too comfortable. I could have ran on R&D and known to have got through with the 2 Toolbox credits. But forcing the corp to res ice just slows them down. Here the runner's resed another Galahad. I can break that using Corroder. Although the extra subroutines that you can show from Grail Ice are on different types of ice, not barriers. If you can break the type of ice that you're encountering, you can break all the subroutines. There I'm noting I'm probably just going to Parasite that away. Do that end of turn. And then at the start of my turn, Parasite will get a token and remove Galahad from play. Now he's tried to install there again, probably not a Sundew, but not sure what it is. I will go check it out this turn. So again, I'm trying to just make him spend money. I'm running on archives. Have a look what's there. There's a couple of face down cards, might be something, might not. There's the crick that I was expecting. I suspect the other one's potentially a pup, but again his ice suite's a different composition for Grail RP, and as it turns out it is another crick. So it costed me 2 David tokens to get into archives without letting him install something. Now that actually slows me down later on. There are times when I want to make a run on all 3 centrals in order to score notoriety. But with only 1 David token left, it actually becomes very expensive to get into archives without letting him install something. Still, the run on archives was worthwhile. Picked up 3 points with the Hades fragment, and then made a run on whatever that exposed card was now, and turned out to be a Marcus Batty. Now, putting Batty in that remote was probably a ploy to try and trash some of my programs. When I encounter the Grail Ice, he can show Lancelot, which is trash 1 program. Then after I pass it, if I continue and don't jack out, then he can res Batty, and Galahad still has trash 1 program on it until the end of the run. Then he could choose to trash Atman, which would make it very difficult for me to get through the Merlins, or at least more expensive. And with no clone chips out, I'd have to do a little bit of work to bring Atman back. So now I'm in a fairly comfortable position. I do just continue to set up, although it looks like there's a lot of cards there, I'm still not done. Here I install a second beach party, meaning my hand size is now 15. Gene Conditioning Shop and Adjusted Chronotype working together to stop me losing any clicks. However, Genteki.net doesn't have Gene Shop working, so I have to give myself a click at the start of every turn, and oftentimes I'll forget, at least in the first instance. So I'm not too badly set up for money, but I do need to go see what that remote is. Again, I can't leave anything because a 3-2 ends the game. So here I run into R&D. It's the cheapest place to go, plus hopefully finding an agenda on top. If I do find an agenda on top, then I'll run HQ archives, letting it fire, and pop the all-nighters to score notorieties. If I don't, however, I'll go run server 0. Find the Jackson. I don't want to let him have it, so pay to trash. And then I still got 14 credits to make the run on this server. So I'll have a full rig, sentry, barrier, code gate, breakers, then Atman, which is an AI, breaks anything, and David to get me past any surprise ice. And here, find another bit of Grail ice, not too much of a surprise. Breakable with Mimic though. Only strength 2. But again, 3 subroutines and it becomes very taxing. I'll definitely continue after this. Just waiting for the corp to acknowledge I broke the subs. Oh dear. Excuse me. So that was Jackson Howard. He's going to shuffle back some cards. Caprice, and another Caprice, and a Jackson. None of those I want to see. Certainly, Caprice is the only thing that can potentially win the game for him now. Caprice or Batty. I can get into any remote pretty much at will. And unless he's got a biotic labour, which is unlikely with the Grail suite, a lot of your influence is taking up with that. There's no real way of keeping me out. And a lot of people say, you know, Caprice is somewhat broken for this reason. You make the whole way through the server, they res Caprice, you've spent maybe 20 credits on getting in, and then you just have a 1 in 3 chance of that being for naught. But realistically, with how easily runners can get set up and how much money they can earn, it really needs to be part of the game. For otherwise, the runner would have far too high a win percentage. So ways of kind of getting around Caprice and psi-game cards in general, people have taken to using Vamp. If you can get into HQ and use your economic advantage to take the corp down to 0 credits, then they can't use Caprice, or if they have a psi-game, they have to bid 0. Which will let you in. Additionally, the standard way of keeping the corp poor is forcing them to res ice and make sure they don't get off their assets. So if you're losing too many games to Caprice and Marcus Batty, realistically you've only got yourself to blame. There's a number of ways around it, and as I mentioned, one that I'm running in this deck is Quest Complete. That bypasses any of the upgrades entirely. Then there's Drive-By, a double, which if they're not resing the assets or upgrades, you can trash them at no cost, expose and trash if it's an asset or upgrade. Then if they are resing them, you can theoretically pack unregistered Smith & Wesson. Not a card that seemed very much, but again, if it's really crimping your game, they're all options for consideration. Additionally, with my deck running 3 Notorieties, that's a very good way of only having to get to 4 points and then guaranteeing the win the turn after. So yeah, I just have to give myself a click again for Gene Shop not working. I choose not to see what that unraised dice is. I'll go the safer route and just spend the 2 real money to get into HQ. Then I'll head along to server 0 and see what that is. Now there's a reasonable chance there's some traps in this deck, maybe a snare or something. Hard to find the space in an RP deck for traps, but I'm not too familiar with the standard sort of Grail suite. So here I find the future perfect, play a psi game to steal it. I was relatively sure he really wanted to keep me out, so I bid 2, which is a bit overkill, as he only spent 1. Had I found that, I would have ran on R&D archives, let him install anything, and scored the notoriety for the win. Again, standard wisdom for psi-games is that corp spends 1, runner spends 0. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that's a good baseline for people to consider. But there's many different situations where you almost know what the other person's going to bid. And then the psi-game part, do you bid what you think they're going to bid? But if they know that you know what they know, then what do you end up bidding? You'll see a number of people roll dice to decide this. You'll see a number of people roll dice to decide which card to take out of HQ. Those people are morons. They need to make a decision. And that is my stance on that. A lot of people say you don't get true randomness from decision making, but the shuffle on R&D is more than enough for on HQ is more than enough for randomness. And again, it's not a random thing, the psi-game. It is an evaluation of the board state and trying to work out what your opponent is going to bid. So if you use dice against me, I think you're a moron. And there you go. I've put that out there. I'll get some hate in the comments, no doubt. While we're talking about things I hate, broken egg tokens. Hate those. Stupid coloured slabs. Unless you're right next to them, very difficult to work out what their values are. Annoys me greatly when I play somebody that doesn't sort them properly. Luckily I did play Chimpster from netrunners.co.uk. He uses the broken egg tokens, and he's actually got a fairly good method where he changes them up when they need to, and all the values are facing your opponent at the far edge of his mat, so as close to you as possible, or as close to me as possible. So I didn't mind that quite so much. But in general, people that just stack up piles of random coloured slabs, nope, don't do it. Right, there you go, small rant over. So I levied there and used game day to draw up. My board state's fairly commanding now. The only thing I'm afraid of is some sort of fast advance, and it doesn't look as if he's running any. I'll money up here. Bring out a couple of clone chips just in case. So the clone chips are really in case Batty manages to ping a program away. Being able to bring it back out before encountering whatever he was not wanting you to be able to break is highly beneficial. And then I've now got so much money that I can literally get in anywhere. Anyway, at this point I still know that he's got a future perfect in hand. Now that I've got loads of cash, I'll put some more pressure on. I've managed to pick up the quest completed again as well. So I'm going to make a run on HQ, see if I can find the future perfect. If not, it's possible that he's installed it in server 0. Choosing to put out daily casts as well there, just in case I don't manage to find it this turn. And then I'll make a run on HQ. So bust through Merlin for 3 money. I'm not even making them show the cards anymore. I'm just going ahead and breaking 3 subroutines on every bit of Grail ice that I see. I perhaps should. He's maybe installed some of them, but just to save a little bit of time. And then 1 credit for the Baco. And then I'll access 1 card. Again, I'd like to see the future perfect, which I do. Now, last time having bid 2, this time I'm going to bid 0. him having seen that I bid 2 may have thought I was going to bid 1 and also bid 0, but I managed to get it. I now know that I have the win. I'll run on R&D, I'll pop the all-nighters, I'll run on archives, and then I will play Notoriety to get the last point. So here I'm just going through the motions. I've loads of money, there's no upgrades installed, there shouldn't be any nasty surprises. The only thing that can possibly stop me here would be a snare on the top of R&D that hit all 3 notorieties. However, even then, I should be able to win the turn after by running all 3, popping 3 all-nighters, and then same old thinging for notoriety. So here, pretty confident now. Need to run through archives. So use my last David token. And then I'm just going to pay for it using Gordian Blade. I don't really care if he installs something, but rather than make him go through all the rigmarole of choosing, I'll just break them, get the access, and score out notoriety. So there I went from a really terrible start to ending up being unstoppable. That's often how this deck works, usually giving up a few points early doors. I don't think my suite of cards for drawing is great at all. I should probably look at getting a third diesel and possibly quality times over beach parties and game days. I don't necessarily need a hand size of 15, but it is very nice late game. But the main area this deck suffers is the early game. So if you've got any ideas, I'll post the deck list below, what you might do differently or almost certainly better, and I'll look at probably making a few changes.